I was not very good with academics. I was not very good with sports either. But Jugaad is what I have been doing whole my life. That's where their mind opened. Okay, they are going to pay us as well, and they're going to pay us that much. Ki someone is also earning from the commission part. And I was like, ki you are doing great. You need money about like from this, and you can earn this. Now there are established artists, when you go to manage them or when you approach them, they're like, यार तुमको क्यों, brand manager be it, organizer be it, a talent manager to collaborate with, whatever, you need to be that people person because you have to make that connect. If you are an artist yourself, you, before anyone, you know ki what an artist requires, but you have to make sure ki you don't lose the connection with the audience that you have built.
Hi, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, by the way, make sure you drop a 5-star rating on Spotify as it helps the stories of incredible people that come on this podcast reach more people. Now, think of your favorite artists, creators, talents. While you and I enjoy their performance or art, there is an economy that functions round the clock to help them create and function effortlessly and beautifully. The business of managing talents can often seem glamorous, one that involves a lot of travel and hobnobbing with famous people at parties. But my guest today will shed light on a lot more on the business of managing talent. My guest, Amol Gupta, is the CEO of an artist management slash advisory company called Crave, but prefers to call himself a chief Jugaad officer. Welcome on Jamsters, Amol. It's a pleasure to have you, buddy.
It's a pleasure is all mine, Hardik. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for something like this. And like you rightly mentioned, I like to call myself Chief Jugaad Officer because that's how I've survived in this industry. So yeah.
So, we'll circle back to why the chief jugaad officer term, but let's start off with understanding how did you land where you are right now.
Okay, interesting. So, I'll tell you a quick background story of mine. So, basically, a mechanical engineer pursuing IT, was working with Accenture, and obviously was not very fond of the 9 to 5 job. So, I started my own company called DIY Solutions, which was an event management company. I started this in Bangalore back in 2017, and with one of my co-founders Anuja, and we were doing events and everything. And then I shifted to Mumbai because one of my college friends, Amandeep, who is a spoken word artist himself, started to do some pieces, and he was getting some views and everything. And he was like, "Ki, bro, Mumbai hi aana hai. This is the place you have to be." So I shifted to Mumbai via Accenture only, and then I started. I saw this opportunity because there was another artist I was trying to book for an event, and trust me, Hardik, I approached him saying ki I have this budget, I can get you this show. And he was like, "Ki, theek hai." And I managed to convince him in a quarter of that price. So I was like, "Ki they don't know what to charge. They don't know what is the, like, how the market is ready for them. Hence the opportunity arises, and I was like, "Ki, theek hai." Now artist management is the key. And within the night, I called my co-founders and like, "Ki bahut ho gaya event management. Let's jump into artist management. This is where people, and this is the gap that we can actually fill." So that's how I ended up doing artist management. And obviously, one thing led to another. And right now, I'm heading Crave, which is the artist management wing, and is with Common. Yes.
So you must mention a little bit about the transition, right? I think from DIY to happening with Crave is also an interesting juncture. So you must share that story too.
Sure. So basically, I was doing this event. So the IP, the term IP was very new to me, right? I was like, "कि यार event करते हैं." That is what I want to do. So with this, so this is something that I have developed in the past. कि whenever the artists are not getting gigs, they are worrying कि what is going on with them. Do some event, give some gig to them, organize some event, and they will be like, "ठीक है, we are doing something fruitful and valuable." And I started to do this Meraki. I named a show called Meraki, and we did this whole IP, month-long IP. It got covered from newspaper, it got covered from some radio stations and everything. And suddenly, one out of blue, Roshan Abbas is calling me saying, "Ki Amol, kya kar rahe ho?" And I was like, "Ki who's this Roshan Abbas? Why is he calling me?" Then I'm I'm working on like something in a project in Accenture, and suddenly a call come in, and it's Gaurav Kapoor who is calling me, and then Ankur Tiwari wants to meet me. So I was like, "Ki, what is this happening?" And then I met them, and obviously Roshan, being Roshan, kind of poached me to join his firm commune, and where I wanted to complete the umbrella with him. So the whole umbrella, they are a content company, a creators collective. They are doing something great with content. They are creating some great, unique online and offline experiences, and the only logical step was to get into artist management, because that's where the umbrella will get completed. Yeah, so that's how
Interesting.
Crave
Interesting.
happened.
Now, with DIY solutions, is that still formally active? Is that inactive? Has it shut down? What's the status there?
It's in a dormant stage, I would say. We did
Mhm.
something in pandemic. We did something, a event of sort, but it's in a dormant stage. Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, you mentioned Chief Jugaad Officer. Why the word Jugaad there?
Um, See, one thing that I've realized ki I didn't have any past connection, right? I don't have any connection in the media industry or in Mumbai, for the matter of fact. So I landed up here, and everything was jugaad for me. I said yes to, like, when artists were meeting me, ki, how would you get us gigs? I was like, I'll get you gigs. Then the jugaad happens. Ki, okay,
Mhm.
I will call tons of colleges and see ki this is the spoken word is a platform, is a genre which is popping up. You should have it in your a fest or whatever. And that's how things led to another. We wanted to start merchandise. Again, Jugaad. We called something, then Soul Store happened, whatever. So, Jugaad is the word which has helped me throughout my, and not only in this artist management journey, but from childhood, right? This is what I have been doing. I was not very good with academics. I was not very, good with sports either. But Jugaad is what I have been doing whole my life. So hence Chief Jugaad Officer. And
So
Roshan
that
also
that makes a
quoted
lot
me.
of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think it's such a important skill set, right? To be able to be resourceful, and that's another word for jugaad, right? To be able to
Right.
find solutions in the midst of nothing, to
Right.
create solutions and ideas in the midst of nothing. How do you, or how were you managing this, Amol, when the spoken word essentially was not a very established category, right?
Yeah.
And it was taking some time to educate people that what does spoken word really mean. I understand singer, I understand an anchor MC, I understand a musician, but what is a
Yeah.
spoken word artist? And that, along with the challenge that, you know what, let's try him or her for free. We don't
Hmm.
have a budget, right? How do you balance that piece?
Um, so when I entered this field, right, and the one of the pieces from spoken word went viral of Yaya, and he was doing great. Like, people were calling him, and they were happy. Hardik, I'll tell you, I'm not even kidding. They were happy ki, yaar, they are giving us flight tickets. That's a huge thing,
Hmm.
and they were happy about that only. And I was like, no,
Oh boy.
bro, it's not just flight tickets. You can earn from it. They will pay you to
Hmm.
have you. That's where their mind opened. Ki, okay, they are going to pay us as well. And they're going to pay us that much ki someone is also earning from the commission part, you know. So that is where everything kind of came into places, because they were not aware. And when I was pitching to other colleges saying his spoken word is a genre, I have a piece which went viral, and I can show them ki this is what I'm talking about. This is what you will enjoy. You have done comedy, you have done music, but have you felt that deep connection with you know so this genre has that power, कि it can have that deep connection with whoever the audience, and you can feel like this is it, yeah, like someone is talking to me one on one. So that is the power spoken word has, and I truly believe in it. Hence I was able to, I think, because I believe in this genre, that is why I was able to sell it you know
That's true.
so that's very
That's
important
very true.
actually. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned a very interesting point. I don't think that came out correctly. I want to sort of make that a little more specific. The idea that artists not being able to value themselves to
Right.
the potential that they truly deserve, uh, is challenging, and I understand where that comes from, right, Amol? I think especially when you don't have that access to connections, or you've never seen the world that, oh, this art form can be paid, it is worthy to be paid. I can tell you my own example, right? I think when I started emceeing,
Yeah.
for me it was almost like, oh my god, I'm getting paid to talk, really? Like, okay, is this a profession? Oh man. And I come similarly from an engineering background. I'm a civil engineer by degree, and for me,
Nice.
like, the structure worlds of understanding hierarchy and startups and business and capital was something that came naturally. But to switch on the art side and then perform, I too went through my challenges of understanding whether should I charge this or not, right? Am I worthy of this or not? Will they pay me or not? So I can completely understand. I think this is such an important gap to fill, and I'm really glad that you spoke that out, correctly. What are thoughts on uh, educating talent about this gap? Like, how do you go about educating talent on this gap?
Right. So I'll tell you, there are two aspects to this. Firstly, when the artist is starting off, like when I entered, all these artists were starting off this journey, and I was like, "Ki, you are doing great. You need money about like from this, and you can earn this, right?" I know the market. I am pitching for comedy events, so I also did curation with comedians and musicians and everything. So I know ki what's the appetite they have, right?
Hmm.
And with the worth I am providing, I can put a value to it. So hence they were very like they were very okay with the fact that ठीक है, Amol can take a call on it. Now that's one
Hmm.
kind of artists who are just starting off. Now there are established artists. When you go to manage them or when you approach them, they're like, यार तुमको क्यों दूं? Like, if I can
Hmm.
save that 15-20%. But the point which I educate all of them, and I tell this to all the artists, it's not about the 15-20% market or the 15-20% commission that a manager would charge. It's the 15-20% extra he would get you, right? Because when an artist is talking to an organizer, let's say, or someone, and
Hmm.
when a manager talking, it's add value plus I can negotiate into that extent that an artist can't. They would never be
Very true.
able to. So hence, whenever a manager is there, trust me, I'm telling you from experience ki you won't be getting less, you will be getting more in general. Plus your value, your worth in the market is going to increase day by day. So that's the importance of an artist manager, and that's why artist managers should be there.
So, I think there is this one psychological blockage that comes in the minds of artists, right? I think a artists are passionate about their craft, which is the whole reason why they do it, right?
Yeah.
And to merge it with a monetary angle, it feels that any money is good money, right? At least in those initial years. But
Yeah.
once you become more established, then you start realizing the worth and the leverage that you bring in as a performer.
Correct.
But those initial years, right, and they can be really long, right, Amol? You can see that it can range from like a couple of years to like 5, 6, 7, 8 years, right, till the time you get the correct
Sure.
that final breakout, right? And it's such an important role that an artist manager plays, and a good artist manager, right? I think it's very important to mention a good artist manager because there are all kinds of people, right, in the market.
Yeah.
And how do you then identify what makes a good artist manager who's working in the interest of the artist?
So, artist manager, as I define it, are people who is your friend, who's your partner, and who will fight like an enemy. I'll tell you why. Because he's a friend. For example, I'm talking about me, let's say. Uh, it's not that I'm just worried about earning for me and earning for my family. Now I'm also worried about, okay, one of my artists wants to get married. He needs certain kind of like monies per month that I have to arrange. One of my artists wants to build his home. He wants to buy a new place. That is something that I'm talking about. So as a friend, they are always coming to you and saying कि यार ये घर पे ये problem है, this is what I'm aiming to, this is what I want to do next. That's where you act as a friend. As a partner, when they go on any kind of, be it creative block, be it any kind of relationship, something happens there, you are acting as a partner. You are telling them ki what to do, what not to do, and everything, everything in between. But when it comes to the craft, they are very like artists. Being artists, they will think about the craft only, and at the end, it is us who is thinking about okay, how to monetize this, what is the proper number to put in. And then before I negotiate with the front, like the organizer or whoever, the gig manager, I have to negotiate with the artist first ki yaar, this is what I'm going to put, and they will say nahi yaar, kam bhi kar sakte hain, so this will
True.
happen. So all of these roles needs to be played by one person, that is the artist manager. So a good artist manager needs to play all these three roles.
Very interesting. So I want to dig a little deeper here. What particular skill sets do you think an artist manager needs to have in their arsenal?
Skill set one, like Jugaad, as I'll completely stick to that word, is something that you should have. Plus, you will have to be a people person. You'll have to be a people person because uh, it's more about not about the communication. Its skill is more about connecting. So whenever you are
Hmm.
talking to whoever, be it a brand manager, be it a organizer, be it a talent manager to collaborate with, whatever, you need to be that people person because you have to make that connect. You have to, have that connect for your artist. So that's one. Secondly, Jugaad, because at midst of let's say a gig, there's anything which is required. You have to be that attentive. You have to be that Jugadu that you can take the step there and get whatever is required. So that is there, and you have to be stern. Like when people meet me, uh, like right now, what how I'm talking to you is a different Amol when I talk to someone who I'm going to negotiate with. You know,
Hmm.
because when I'm going to negotiate, I need to have that upper hand every time, so that I can win that negotiation. So that is some things like that are some skill set which are absolutely required.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you think it's valuable
Mhm.
to be an artist yourself and then manage other artists? Do you think that's something a prerequisite? Do you think that can be circumvented? What are your thoughts on this?
That is a plus point for sure. If you are an artist yourself, you before anyone you know ki what an artist requires. You know, be it validation, be it monetary benefits, be it just some claps. You know, artists can be happy from that as well. So before anything, ki this is what I require, and that helps you, closing gigs, that helps you closing brands. Ki this is what my expectation looks like, and then obviously artists will add on, but it makes your job much more easier. So I won't say it's very necessary, but I think it's a plus point to have it.
Interesting, interesting. With the pandemic, right? I think the entertainment, the media business obviously got massively hit, and performing artists were literally out of work. During this phase, how did you manage to get business for the artists that you manage, or how were you keeping their mental health in check? I'd love to get a take on that.
Right. So see, when I started, my whole strong suit was I have connection with college. So when there is a college fest, I can get gigs and artists are happy with me. But college gigs are very limited in terms of the number of months which will happen. Okay? It will happen in the end of year, like you will have more college fest than comparison to the earlier months, right? Then I started Miraki because that was where I was feeding my artist. Ki this is you have something for now. We'll have the college fest in a while. Take it. While pandemic was hit, so again, no one was ready to perform to Zoom. No one was ready to do online gigs because again they were not comfortable. Plus, you don't know about the content. Whoever can record it and maybe upload it on YouTube, and your content is gone. You can't use it again. So no one was
True.
comfortable, right? So in midst of that, but you have to make sure that you don't lose the connection with the audience that you have built. Hence, the workshop model was born. So I like if will with Commune, I initiated this whole workshop hacking creativity module where I was getting all my artists. We were doing workshops, we were creating online experiences. And not about just me, like there are multiple agencies I know managing other talents. They all came up with some or the other things which their artists were good about, like be it Samay playing chess or be it Varun doing quizzing or, so these people were doing some things which are they are good at and they are enjoying, and
Mhm.
that is not related to the content bit. Hence, you are feeding them with some kind of excitement. They are connected with their audience, and relatively their mental health is also in a check. We also did some things like we also have shared a care package with all our artists when in the pandemic, where just to check if they are okay. I used to call them once in a while, like it was in my to-do list. I have to call them every twice or thrice in a week, just to check, just to talk, nothing else, no agenda, just call, just have a chat, ki what's going on, what's happening, and everything. Sorry. So yeah, that's how we passed the pandemic, and then thankfully everything went well. So yeah.
Hmm. No, that's I think very very important. I think when especially artists are not having work and you are a manager managing them, I think just a word of reassurance that
Yes.
you are around, that I think would go such a long way.
And that's because that's how you maintain the relationship. See, artist management business is a very tricky business. Any third management could come in and say, "Ki, I'll pay you X amount upfront, join me." It's very, very a offer you can't refuse, right? If the amount is large. So it ends up to the connection that you have with your manager or the management team. Because if the
Interesting.
connection is strong, you will still think about it. If not, you will join like this.
That's such a good point. So I want to unpack this point a little bit more, right? I think especially when you work with artists who are in that growing phase, right?
Mhm.
Managing them is a particular set of challenges.
Yeah.
When the artist becomes a breakout artist or becomes a bigger league artist, they have a different set of challenges. You mentioned about another agency coming in and taking away the talent. Um, how do you handle this? Firstly, and secondly, I'm curious to know how does it impact on the business side of things of your agency?
Right. So artist management in general is a 15-20% commission based work, right? We earn when the artist earn. We if they earn more, we earn more. If they earn less, we earn less. Simple maths. In the growing phase, I'm investing in the artist. I'm doing all kind of errands. I'm doing everything to make sure ki artist reaches to point B from point A where he was charging, let's say, X amount. Then maybe we can increase that amount. That is the hard work that I am doing. And once we reach that point ki, no, now he has a good amount of, he's earning quite well, and I can earn from that, like properly earn from that. That's when the bigger fish will come in and say, "Ki, now I will manage them." And that's the role, that's the business that exists. Like, we are trying to change it, but this happens, right? This has happened with me. But because we have that relationship, and I'm talking about myself, with all my artists I have that relationship, because before joining to anyone, or before even if the offer comes in, they will check with me ki Amol, yeah, what to do. I'll tell you, like, there have been instances where I'm sitting and talking to another artist management agency with my artist, because they have approached them saying कि हमें join कर लो, and I'm sitting with
Oh
them.
boy.
I'm sitting with them. We had that discussion, and I'm sitting quietly. I'm just listening to what they have to say, and I'm just checking what my artists have to say. And the conversation has ended saying, "I have my management team. Thank you. We just wanted to connect."
Oh boy.
Because as an artist, you also have to remember कि be it the initial days, there was someone who was working with you for you every time, like 24/7. And when the time comes to pay back, and in terms of payback, when the time comes when he can earn from you, You jumping to another agency is not quite nice for us, but this happens. It's part and parcel of this management field.
Interesting. Um, I want to also understand that as artists, right? I think you mentioned this such a real life example of you being in conversation with another agency and your artist was being poached there.
Yeah.
How much of contracts are actually put in place and how much are they valued, Amol?
See, contracts are put in place. I have always done contracts with all my artists. I have made sure ki it's properly, covered, and I ask all my artists to read through it, go through it, because God forbid if something goes sideways, we should be on the same page. Ki this is the piece of paper that we have signed to. These are the agreement. These are the terms that we have agreed. Having said that, Hardik, to be honest, you being an artist yourself, you would understand कि once I'm sharing that relationship with you, and if at all I see there's a worth of you joining another company. I
Hmm.
used to manage a comedian as well. Okay? I
Hmm.
let him go because I know his worth joining the other company would be much more, much more, right? And
Interesting.
it's good
Interesting.
for him
Okay.
as well. Then I don't go back saying कि contract में तो ये लिखा था, you have to serve that 1 month का notice period, you have to close all these deals with me only, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in terms of longer, because it comes down to relationship, like I said, yeah, right? The relationship
True.
you have
True.
with your artist. So at that point, I have let him go, and I have told him कि don't worry about the contract, it's okay, will be taken care of, because in the longer run it will
That's
always come
yeah,
back
yeah.
to you.
That makes so much of sense, right? I think especially this becomes a very insecure way of running a business, right? I think the insecurity is so large of managing the talent and then the talent being poached. I understand where that comes from, right? I think I completely understand the challenges of managing an artist, and I'm sure I think as the conversation evolves, a lot of people who are hearing the podcast will understand that there is so much more, right? Like when I started the introduction, it's so
Right.
much more than just being at parties and attending events and listening to their content, watching them perform. It's the back end stuff which goes unnoticed, right? And which is where the manager is literally working around the clock. And I often say this, right? I think talent managers are some of the hardest working people in show business, except that they are not the face of whatever that event, concert, project is, right? I think they are the silent foot soldiers of managing the artists.
I'll tell you like one instance. So this is my, like, in my family, my sister looks up to me and she's like, "Yeah, you have that life. You are just traveling here and there. You are partying. You are having this event. You are uh, dancing. You are meeting all these great artists and everything. Everything looks very fancy. Okay, you are enjoying. You have that life." But what she don't know, what others don't know, is कि while I was working in Accenture, I used to do my 9 to 5 job. Then I would go to proper meetings. I would schedule meeting accordingly. Then I'll come home by 1 a.m., 2 a.m., in that local train. And then, you sleep, and then again 9 to 5. The cycle repeats. So no one sees the back end, no one sees the struggle, no one sees the whatever we do. It's very very behind the scene kind of work that we do. No one sees that struggle out clear. And it is very true कि we work really hard, because you see the gig which is closed, you see someone going, you see one is traveling and doing a show somewhere, maybe internationally, but you don't know before that there would be hundred of gigs we have approached to, there would be hundred of things we have done to make that one thing happen. So there's a certain
Makes
amount of
sense.
work which go on. Yes.
Makes sense. While we're talking about all the good things, right, Amol, I think I also want to talk about what are some of the things that you've experienced that really, for example, get on your nerves when managing talent. Uh, what are some things that have irked you, have made you really sort of, oh man, like what the hell am I doing here? Like, why this happening with me? What are some instances like that?
I can literally tell you all my 5 years in pieces. All the instances are like this, but no. Uh, to be honest, there are few instances like everyone knows that there are some artists, with some sort of tantrums, um, which you have to handle, you have to take care of, and it's not a very good experience to have, to be honest, but you have to take care of it, and at that point you will have that feeling ki yaar kya kar raha hu, what is that I'm doing, is this valuable, is this meant to be.
True.
But there are like, okay, I'll tell you one instance. This is an event we were doing with HP. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm naming this because this happened. It was very out in public kind of thing. Uh, so we were doing this event. We went to Delhi. There was three artists that I took with me, myself. I think four artists plus me. We traveled. It was an outdoor event and rain. It starts raining, and everything goes on a toss, like the whole production goes out, and we have to shift the entire event. It was a launch event. So we have to shift everything inside, like indoor. So we are making that happen, and there are some artists like, what is this happening, I'm going to the hotel, call me once everything is settled. And we have to leave that day only. So I am working on a fixed time frame. So I have to help them create the whole indoor setting. I have to manage all these artists saying, ki, okay, in the midst of rain, in this whole situation, some artists have a specific requirement of what they want to eat, from which place they want
I
to
can
eat.
imagine.
No, now I have to take care of that as well while I'm managing all these other stuff. And when you expect ki all these artists would understand what you are going through, some of the some of them don't, which is okay, which is the hard part you have to manage. And that is the point when you feel ki yaar kya ho raha hai, what is that I'm doing, you know but you have to go on, because the end result, when everything will go, and when I was on my flight back to home, I was like, yeah, this event was an experience. Something that I'll discuss once in Jamster while I'm talking to Hardik. But yes, there are some events.
That makes so much sense, right? I think one of the things that probably uh, after you sharing this experience, I understand that talent managers, artist managers need to be um, very very grounded, right? I think managing talents doesn't make you a talent yourself. I think it's something that I heard from one of these leading talent managers, founders. I can't recollect his name, but he said that when talent managers manage these incredible artists, they sort of start feeling that they themselves are, important people, and the job of yours is to actually manage the talent. You should keep that at the center of your work.
Right, right. So this is also another problem, because some talent managers, like you told, right, what makes a good talent manager or what makes a fairly not good talent manager is this difference. Once you think you are the important person, you are gone. You are gone. You won't be surviving this industry, because uh, you are never the important person. It's the artist. You have to be the
True.
artist first person always. Be it you are talking to the brand, be it you are talking to any other talent manager. uh, Even the artists, like some artists are good, some artists have more fame, some artists have more numbers. It doesn't mean that the other
True.
artist is less to be valued for. You should respect, you should
Very, very
talk to
good
them
point.
as if they are another artist and artist shouldn't have that clash. And especially the talent manager should know this very clearly, कि be it your artist, be it their artist, be it whoever artist, all in all, they are artists and not someone like with 10 million followings or with 1 million followings or with 580K followings. So that segregation shouldn't be there. And you should respect everyone equally. And never,
Such a
never,
lovely point.
ever make sure, like, never ever keep yourself in the priority. It is always
Have you
the
seen that,
artist.
Amol, when artists are managing other artists? there is often, or is there a conflict of interest that comes in, that the artist who's managing the other artist would end up pitching him or herself in the process? Does that happen? Have you seen that happen?
This happens. This happens. My own company. So there is a musician who is managing indie music talents, right?
Hmm.
While he wants to pitch himself, because you are pitching music talents, you are pitching his music, like whoever music, to a record label, let's say. And at that point, it's very but natural that you will have that thing inside you कि यार अपना music भी तो pitch कर सकता हूँ, you know, but you can't.
Interesting.
I have always made sure, I've made this very clear कि never put yourself first. Even if it's the first meeting you are having, even if you are showcasing some of your talents, their music, never ever put your music in that first meeting or first email or first interaction, because I think then the feeling arises कि okay, I'm putting myself, maybe I will put myself first, like the first out of the order. Uh,
Hmm.
so that will, kind of drive the attention, and it's bad for business, because even the if you're talking to a record label, they know what you are doing, what you are saying,
Very
what you are
true.
pitching. So they will understand where it is coming from. So it should never happen ki you should pitch yourself first. But yes, being an artist yourself, I wouldn't stop him for, pitching his music. But maybe on the second meeting. Second
Makes
meeting is
sense.
okay. You can pitch yourself, but not in the first meeting. I would say that. I would say to avoid.
So have you, Amol, seen some genres of talent, areas that are more difficult than others, or have you stepped away from some genres of managing talent?
Um, Not really. I think it's about the market. It's finding that niche. Uh, before so I was doing this event with a gaming company where I provided some artists, and for me it was very new. कि यार gamers को who would manage? What is the scope? What is the potential? I didn't know it, but it's a huge market in itself, Hardik, you
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah.
So I you never know, if you find the niche, if you find that market, it's okay, it's equally hard, it's equally easy to manage any kind of talent. It's just that you have to find that gig. And to be honest, like, this is something that I have been doing from start of my career, where I wanted to manage some unique unique as in not so conventional talent. Like, I don't want to
Got it.
manage a proper music band. I don't want to manage a Bollywood artist, because that's very out there. I want to create a new genre. Like, right now I have a hold on in spoken word. I also started managing some beatboxes. I also did some sand artists, for the matter of fact, you know.
Interesting.
So these are the artists who are unique, like very less in number. They have a very small niche market, but if you can capture that, you are holding the 100% or the 80% of that market. So it's about the the pie is better, and to have that, like, that piece of pie is much bigger,
Very
I feel.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. When you sort of say that it depends on, for example, things that interest you, and you want to say not conventional per se, but let's say someone who you want to handle with indie music example, right?
Yeah.
So how do you understand music as a genre? Because music is such a complicated, it's a very very big space, right? In terms
Right.
of record labels, streaming revenues, merchandising, touring, right? There are like 10,000 things. But if let's say you're managing a spoken word artist purely, it could probably be merchandising, lesser than, for example, music. So do you see differentiators there, or are you able to really grasp the subject very well, go deep, explore with the artist? Like how do you understand this quickly?
So I don't think there's much more. Okay, let me put it this way. As spoken word as a genre, all the things that I can do with music, I can do with spoken word as well. It's up to me
Okay.
what I'm doing. Okay,
Okay.
be it touring, be it merchandising, be it even doing these record labels. Spoken word artists are writing songs. One of my artists
Interesting.
recently wrote song for series which came out. So this happens, like everything you can do with music, you can do with spoken word. It's up to us what all we are going to do. Indie music, because the reason we entered the indie music space is because one of our co-founders here at Commune was Ankur Tiwari, right? It
Mm,
only made sense for us to enter that space, indie music, where uh, we can manage. And again, I'm sticking to a certain genre of music right now. I'm not
got it.
getting music in general. I'm not managing a conventional music artist. I'm sticking to a indie music singer songwriter wala space. That's where I'm going to lead. So I think that's the
Got it.
differentiator.
Got it. No, I think with the clarity that you've mentioned, Amol, I think that makes a lot more sense. I think now I'm able to see the parallels. Probably from the outside, it just wasn't that clear, but I think in your head there is a connecting thread to
Yes.
managing musicians or a spoken word artist. So obviously that makes a lot of sense after hearing you. Going forward, so I want to understand, Amol, that with the talents that you manage, is performing their main revenue source, or do you want to also see that how can they become more established brands outside of performing? So let's say the revenue not being dependent only on performance. So as you saw in the pandemic, the revenue was entirely tied only to performance, right? If they perform, they make revenue, you make revenue. But do you see like offshoots of their brand being monetizable? Merchandising, for example, being one example. So how do you foresee an evolution of an artist from that angle?
See, artists are brands. You can't treat artist anyhow, like any different from any brand that you're treating, right? So artists are brand. We are building a brand, not an artist. Okay? It is very clear in my head. And the reason why we call ourselves as holistic management is because of this reason. Uh, One of my artists is famous poet, storyteller, and in the spoken word genre, but he wants to become an actor. I'm going to handhold his hand till the point where we establish himself as an actor. On the other hand, there is another artist who is again a great spoken word artist, but he wants to become a writer. So he is going to take that back seat and he wants to write for all kind of beat songs, beat screenplays, beat stories. He wants to write. So that is the journey for him. So artists are brands. We are taking a different journey for all individual, like every individual artist, right? That's one. Secondly, any artist, when you are treating him or her as a brand, you have to do all kind of stuff. For example, I'll take another artist which is outside of our roster. Let's say Zakir, for example, right? He is a great artist to do a case study on. He started his thing. He was doing comedy. He was writing. He went viral, and then specials came out. Then he also acted. Then he also did some advertisements. Then he also launched his biryani brand. You know,
Hmm.
so this is the whole journey of how you can monetize, how the artist brand can be built, and beat whatever their interests are. For example, Gaurav Kapoor, his interest was into sneakers. He ended up, funding a sneaker brand. He then is a face of it. So the whole brand journey is there. So, whenever you're managing an artist, there is a proper journey that you have to take with them, and which can end up wherever. For every artist, it's a different goal, it's a different place they want to end up with, and that's the journey that you are traveling with. So, in the
Lovely,
obviously in this
lovely.
journey, you'll have to earn, you'll have to make it monetizable. You have to, because that's your survival kit. So, that is
That's
something that
true.
is.
Now, that makes a lot of sense, Amol. This has been really fun chatting. Lots of interesting viewpoints, and I'm taking back a lot of interesting perspectives on the business of talent. So thank you very much for a great chat.
Thank you, Hardik, for having me. It was great talking to you, and like I said, it's all about connections. I think we really connected, and this happened. But thank you so much for having me.